bringing you the latest news from Estacado Athletics. This is the Matador Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the High School Fan Zone. I'm Randy Rosetta with 100.7 The Score, as it mentioned. We will jump into the Matador Fan Zone as soon as we can find where Eric Ward's at. We'll get him in here. Hopefully he'll bring a Matador player to talk about. The Matadors got beat 41-21 by Hereford last week. Fell behind early. Turnovers were a problem. I think they had 4 giveaways, and Hereford took advantage. And to be totally fair and honest, Hereford's a really good team. They beat Lubbock High the first week. They're a team that's got some deep playoff expectations. Adam Nairn, the coach there. That's a tough loss. I'm not sure it was an expected loss, at least the way it was. Estacado's still scuffling a little bit to move the ball. I think they had less than 200 yards of offense, so they'll figure it out. They'll get things going. We'll run through this week's schedule first, and then we'll come back and look at last week's scores. This week, as we mentioned in the first segment with Coronado coach Andrew Roy, the Mustangs are the Thursday night game at Lowry Field against Abilene Wiley. That's on 96.9 The Bull. Friday night, there's a full slate of action in and around Lubbock. Well, not necessarily close to Lubbock, because Friendship heads out to Wichita Falls to take on Legacy, one of the 2 new schools. They're in their 3rd week, so maybe not so new anymore. That one will be on Double T 97.3 FM. Lubbock Cooper goes up to Canyon. I just found this out today. They're playing Tascosa, but they're playing it at WT's fairly new football stadium, which I'm told is, by my friend Lance Lannert up there, is a Division II football palace. They play at 7 p.m. Friday at, I can't remember the official name of it, but it's in Canyon on campus. That one will be right here on 100.7 FM. The Score. Lubbock High goes down to Snyder, takes on the Tigers. That one's on a different station, but we know the Westerners will, they're looking to go to 2-1, which has not happened all that often recently. El Paso Franklin comes to town to take on Monterey at the Friday night game at Lowry Field. That's on 93.7 FM. Plainsmen looking for their first win after a couple of narrow losses. Monterey lost a very tough one last week. We'll talk about that Tuesday when Judd Thrash and his crew come in, but just a tough loss to Abilene Wiley last week. Estacado is also up in Canyon against West Plains. They will be at Kimbrough Stadium. I believe it's still called Kimbrough Stadium. It's refangled Kimbrough Stadium. They've done a lot of work there, so I'm looking forward to getting a look at that when we get a chance. Liberty, which also lost a heartbreaker last week at Idalou, lost in overtime after leading by 2 touchdowns most of the second half, deep into the 4th quarter, and Wildcats found a way to come back and then won it in overtime. Liberty heads down to Monahans, take on the 0-2 Lobos. That one's on 93.1 FM, Friday night, 7 p.m. Elsewhere, not on Raymar Dials, but around the area, Lubbock Christian goes down and takes on Stanford, coached by former Monterey coach Wayne Hutchison. Should be a very entertaining game. 2 teams that are 2-0 and have very high-level aspirations for their particular levels of football. The Eagles are really good. If you've not seen them or read much about them, they are a very solid program and very good this year. Welker Horn is the quarterback, young man who is committed to Trinity University in San Antonio. His dad is Jeff Horn, former Monterey baseball standout, played on the 1996 Plainsman State Championship team, and I believe his grandpa, Larry Horn, was on the 1972 Monterey Baseball State Championship team. I may be wrong about the year on that one, but it's a lot of baseball history with the Horn family. The Welker's chosen to become a football player, and he's really good at it. Trinity Christian is in action Thursday down at Denver City. Head down to take on a team coached by Cody McGuire, former Texas Tech standout, whose brother, his name just escaped me, is an assistant coach at Texas Tech now. A couple of 6-man games in the area. Christ the King is at home, 5 p.m. kickoff against Midland TLCA. And then Kingdom Prep goes up to Anton and takes on the Bulldogs at 7 p.m. Friday. So a lot of high school football action going on. We're going to go back and look at last week. If I think I can remember most of these scores off the top of my head, but I'm not going to trust myself to do that because I'm, as you can see from the gray whiskers showing up on my face here after a couple of weeks doing radio, and I promise it's not because of Brendan. Brendan's doing an incredible job behind the glass there. He's keeping me young, but it's because
if anything, your memory's got to be stronger than my memory.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I'm not sure. I'm still going to find it and call it up here because I want to make sure I get everybody correct here. Brendan, when you have children, that's when the gray hairs start popping up, especially if you've got daughters.
I will keep that in mind.
I tell the athletes all the time I'm a 2-time girl dad, which is great for me, but also has aged me. Gracefully, I hope so. We're going to come back after the break and talk more high school football. Hopefully, the Matador Fan Zone will get going, and Eric Ward will be here. Otherwise, we'll talk what we can.
Breaking down Estacado sports. This is the Matador Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
I am Randy Rosetta with 100.7 The Score. We are back, and as you can see, I am joined. It's magic. Brennan works some magic here, got guys here. I'm joined by Estacado coach Eric Ward, and what are we, safety?
Yes, sir.
Okay, safety. Oh, pick up your microphone. Hold it close there. Donivan
Yes, sir.
Torres, one of the at least four really fast guys that Eric found when he got to Estacado in June. Remind me, Donovan, you've been on the 4x2
Yes, sir.
state relay team the last 2 years?
Yes, sir.
And you're probably the unsung hero because everybody knows Cedric, everybody knows James. There's you, and then who's the fourth guy been?
We had a senior our freshman year, and then we had another kid, Luis.
It was Delton.
Yes, sir. Delton was our freshman year.
He was. You guys called him Old Man Delton or something.
Yes, sir. Uncle Delton.
Which is, I understand. You guys are young, so you have to give the old guys a nickname. So we're going to talk about football now, and we'll go ahead and rip the bandage off here. Eric lost 41-21 to Hereford. Looked at the box score a little bit, and we were just talking in between segments here. 3 turnovers in the first quarter, got behind 21-7. That'll throw a game plan. Almost the old thing about Mike Tyson about getting punched in the mouth. Well, you guys got punched in the mouth and had to kind of readjust and figure out something different to do. What kind of unraveled there in the first quarter for you?
Well, to start off, we scored in the first minute, and so we were pretty explosive scoring.
There you go.
And I mean, when you have 3 turnovers in the first half, that's hard to beat anybody in that fashion. I mean, you can't give a team 3 extra possessions. And so, everything's teachable and fixable, and we're going to correct it. We've been working on it in practice, and it's a teaching moment.
You mentioned this right before we came on. Not only are you giving them 3 extra possessions, you're losing possession. You're losing chances with the ball, which not just possessions, but a chance to kind of get into a rhythm. And you guys have enough young guys on offense. You have experienced guys on offense. But you have enough young guys on offense where week 2 you want to get them into a rhythm, get them in a flow, and you can't do that when the other team's out there with the ball in their hands.
Absolutely right. You got to take care of the football, and you got to be sound with the football. And so, when you turn over the ball, you give a team that many extra possessions that you don't give your own self, and so that just makes it that much more difficult.
And I mentioned this before you got here. The other part of that equation is Hereford's pretty good. They've got a lot of high-level expectations, and giving a team that good a little bit more gas to throw on the fires, nothing but trouble.
I believe they're very disciplined. They didn't make as many mistakes, and so when you're playing against a disciplined team, you have to take care of the football.
Donovan, your defense, especially coming off that first week against Jim Nedward, you guys were just tough as nails. It's hard to say you did much wrong because you had to keep going back out there, but what did you feel like you guys needed to do better to maybe change things and get your offense back out there and give them a chance?
I feel like we could have done better with a lot more communication and just watch a little bit more film and teamwork.
The good news is it's just one. And the other good news is it's week 2, so it doesn't count towards what you guys want to do at the end of the year. How do you've mentioned teaching tools a couple times. How valuable are those teaching tools going to be, especially early in this week when you start getting ready, because it doesn't get any easier. You got to go up north and take on West Plains, which has been a handful for you guys the last couple of years.
Well, I believe it's all teachable moments for are kids who have never had this varsity experience, and so they see what it takes and how detrimental it can be when you don't capitalize the opportunities that you're given. And so it's still early on. It's behind us. We're moving on to West Plains. We're going to learn from it, and we're going to drill it and practice and get better as we go.
Well, I know you played it for at least one coach down the road here at Texas Tech that was a pretty big part of his philosophy was, I don't know if he had a midnight rule or a 24-hour rule. I'm talking about Mike Leach.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you want to make sure your guys understand that you can't dwell on it? You can't let this one linger.
Well, I always tell them you got to have a medium high. You can't get too high, you can't get too low. You always got to play the next play and have short-term memory, because football is a game of next. It's a game of inches, it's a game of opportunity, so you can't really dwell on what you did bad. You got to get back up and keep going forward.
And you head to Canyon to take on West Plains, which I know I typed it in here. They're 1-1, but that's been a very good startup program the last couple of years. That is 7 p.m. Friday at Kimbrough Stadium. And we'll be back on the Matador Fan Zone to talk more about that game. I'm Randy Rosetta with 100.7 The Score.
Bringing you the latest news from Estacado Athletics. This is the Matador Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back to the Matador Fan Zone on 100.7 The Score. I'm Randy Rosetta. I'm with Eric Ward, the first-year Estacado coach, and Donivan Torres. Donovan, grab your mic there. I want to chat with you for a second here. Hold it up close so the folks can hear you. You've been on a couple of teams where you guys hit some rough patches and got better, kept growing. Last year, you guys, I think it was, I'm going to bring up a bad memory, Brownwood, the last couple of years has gotten you guys, but you guys bounced back. Do you see kind of some similarities where this team it's just week 2, but now you've kind of been knocked back on your butt a little bit? How prepared is this team to hop back up and get back to work?
I feel like every time we always get knocked down by somebody and we know we should have beat them, we always come together, practice hard, come to practice, everybody lock in and get ready for the next team.
Because I promise that this will be the last time I say Brownwood. When you've lost to Brownwood the last 2 years, you guys got better after that. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, we've learned that lesson. Now we have to figure out what we can do better. So let me ask you, what can you guys do better after last week?
Really teamwork, less like penalties and fumbles and all that, and just really just the little things.
So Eric, you weren't here for that. Mm-hmm. I just said I wouldn't say it again. They lost to a pretty good program with a lot of tradition the last couple of years. A new district opponent for them, and if you go back and look at video, they got better as a result of kind of a tough lesson learned. Is this a team that you feel like can do that pretty quick?
Absolutely. I think this is a very resilient group, and today's practice even proved that. They came out ready to practice, fired up, and we got a lot accomplished today.
We talked a little bit about the turnovers, which they skew your offensive numbers, but you have not put up huge offensive numbers in either of your first 2 games. You're an offensive guy. You pointed out this helmet here. You made a lot of catches, a lot of big plays wearing that helmet. As a coach, it's going to may sound kind of weird. How patient do you have to stay with your offense to not try to do too much, because you want those guys to start gaining some confidence?
So you know you got to give them bits and pieces of it, and so you don't want to give them more than they can chew, right? And so it's a learning curve for a few of them, because this is their first varsity action. And so I'm spoon feeding them in a sense, but I don't want to give them too much that they can't handle. And so it'll come. It's a work in progress. It'll come. But the big picture is always the plan.
You mentioned you guys scored the first touchdown because you, young, old, whatever, you guys have some explosive ability. You've got Bobby Ross. You've got Cedric Ross. You've got James Bozeman. How eager are you to see some of that kind of start to kick in?
I'm very eager. I know what it's going to look like. It's the process, and you can't rush the process, but I know that it's heading in the right direction. Now,
as much as your numbers got skewed on offense, putting your defense in tough spots kind of messed their numbers up a little bit too. But knowing you've got a guy like Donovan back there as kind of the anchor, how comfortable does that make you know that this defense will help take care of you guys when you're not putting them in bad spots?
Well, I mean, in terms of bad spots, I mean, we turned over the ball. I mean, fumbling maybe 3 times. I mean, those 3 possessions that you need on offense. And so it puts the offense in a bad spot as well as the defense. And so we're going to get better in that area. And moving forward, I think playing both sides as well as we can play is going to put us in a very good position.
You brought Donivan with you tonight, so you've seen something in him these first couple of weeks. What kind of leadership does this young man bring to the table?
Consistent. I mean, you know what you're going to get with Donivan, and he's going to show up and work hard, and he's going to be the same type of player and leader every day. And he never wavers, but he's always, he's going to always step up and answer to the call.
Donivan, you heard what Coach said just there. What is that a natural ability for you? Is that something that with this team you feel like you have to do even more because you're one of the older guys?
Really both. I mean, I always haven't been a natural leader, but you got to step up in certain spots for the team.
I always feel like when you lose a game like you guys did last week, that the next one can't get here quick enough. You got a week of practice to get ready, but just what do you want to see from your guys real quick Friday night against West Plains when you get up to Canyon?
I just want them to get better at the things they didn't do as well the game previous, and just go out there and compete the best of their ability, and go out there and have fun with it as well. And let's go out there all cylinders firing.
And history's on Estacado's side. They've showed the ability to do that the last few years, and I have a hunch they probably will do that again Friday. This has been the Matador Fan Zone. It's been the Monday night version of the High School Sports Zone. We'll be back Tuesday with Lubbock High and with Monterey. I'm Randy Rosetta with 100.7 The Score.